to Owner Optional, the podcast for business owners who want companies that run without them. I'm James, your host. I've been a small business consultant all across the country for about 10 years now, and I've been a small business owner myself for about 20. Together, we break down how to build real businesses, not jobs, so that they can become assets that can grow, scale, be sold, and ultimately run without you. If you want freedom, leverage, and long-term value, you're in the right place. For more information, you can visit our website at lotuspe.us. That's lotuspe.us. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Owner Optional. I'm James, and this week we have a question from a listener. He listened to a recent show. His name is actually Tim. He owns a shop in New York. His issue is pretty relevant to what a lot of business owners are facing, and especially new business owners, even existing ones. The issue that he's experiencing, it happens more than people realize, and in my experience in coaching and my experience in beginning to take over other companies and purchase companies and work with other companies, it's very common. And so today we're going to talk about clarity. We're not going to talk about judgment or anything like that. It's just, these are the facts, and this is where you're going to need to stay to make sure that you solve this problem. And so Tim went to our website, and he left us a question, and it's pretty basic, right? Hey, James, my name's Tim. I'm an auto repair shop owner in New York that recently took over after my dad passed away. Tim, I'm sorry to hear about your father. He ran the business for years and kept most of the numbers pretty close to the vest, so I was kind of thrown into this without a clear picture of how everything actually works. The shop stays busy and revenue seems decent, but I'm working nonstop and I don't feel like there's any money left. I'm constantly putting cash back into the business just to keep things moving, and I'm starting to question if I'm missing something or if this is just how it goes. I heard the episode you did with Nick Edwards where you talked about KPIs, and it really hit home. Would you be able to break down which numbers actually matter and how someone in my position should be looking at them? And again, that's a really, really good question. And so KPIs are called key performance indicators. And in an auto repair shop, we can break this down very simply. If we are not doing the things that we need to do with our money, or we're overspending in certain areas, then we can essentially go broke on our feet, so to speak. It is an easy situation, and it's an easy situation to fix, rather. It just takes a little bit of work. You've got to be diligent with what you're doing with your money, what you're taking in, and how you allocate your money between the lines. Your accounting firm can help you. And if you don't have an accounting firm, we have Lotus Financial, run by my wife, Nicole, and she's incredible. And you can obviously just reach out to us the same way you did to ask the question, and you can get on a call with her, and she can begin to explain it to you as well, and even begin to kind of hold some structure for you. And so, without wasting any more time, if we want to break this down very easily, we'll start with, say, a $100 sale, right? 100% of the sale is $100. The first 20%, right? So the first $20 in this situation will be going straight to the technicians. That's called, it begins to outline your cost of goods sold, right? And so that first 20% is also totally loaded. So meaning it includes any like tax and benefit load. The next 20% is going to be parts. Before you pass go, this is your operating, or not your operating expense, but this is going to be your cost of goods sold, right? So this is going to be your labor and then your parts. And then from there, you're going to have roughly right around 60% of GP, or gross profit. These are your spendable dollars that you can put back into the business for the other things that you need, such as staff and overhead and everything else. And so as we move along, after you have this 60%, the next 10%, again, that's loaded. That can go to your front of house people. So that's advisors, that's anybody that you have, CSRs, anybody answering phones or anything like that. You can pay them up to 10% of that, say, $100 in theory number. Next, you're going to spend up to 10% on marketing. And some people spend less, some people spend a little bit more, and we'll break down how that works in a minute as well. But the next 10% is for marketing. These people that say that they don't have to market, I very rarely see shops that kind of go to that next level, especially in this new world we're living in after COVID, because brand loyalty seems to be at really an all-time low in general. And so it's very important for us to be out in front of the customers all the time, like right customer, right message, right time. And we're not always just marketing just to bring in customers. We want to bring in staff too, right? And so it's the same thing. If you are consistently and constantly marketing and you're constantly in front of your audience, when they need you, you're going to be there. They're going to see you. You're building your brand in front of them all of the time. You're positioning yourself as an authority in the industry, a place that they may want to come and do business with, but conversely also a place that they may want to work for as well when they decide that they want to make a move. The next 30% is for your overhead. That's your rent or your mortgage, your insurance. That's really anything, utilities, all the other stuff that you need just for your basic overhead. And then the last 10%, that's going to go to savings. And so any of the top 90% of stuff can be fluid, right? And so we could start at the top again. We could say, all right, our cost of goods sold, our labor and our parts, maybe our loaded wages are going to be somewhere around 25%. Well, then we really can't spend more than 15% on the parts. And if you need to go over that number, then we need to kind of take it from somewhere else, right? We could spend a little less on marketing. Maybe our overhead is 17%, and so we've got a little bit of money left there and what we call cap space. It's just like a baseball team. They can only spend so much on the players because there are other expenses, and you can't have the business going out of business on its feet because you've overspent in certain areas. That bottom 10%, that savings, that is really just non-negotiable. You must find a way to do that. And so when we begin talking with a business, whether through a coaching capacity or we bring them into our portfolio, there's typically two questions, right? Like, I don't know how to do that. One really main question, right? I don't know how to do this. We have to spend this amount of money. There's nothing that we can do. And then when we begin to look into the numbers, the first thing that we want to do is we want to find any place that we can cut without cutting from the employees, the employee experience, or the customer experience. You can't cut your way to profitability, but we can eliminate waste. The next thing that we're going to do, if everything is in line and nothing is negotiable, there's no fat that we can take away, then we need to make sure that we're just charging correctly. Are we marking our materials up in a way that makes sense? And are we charging enough labor? And when we talk about charging enough labor, are we billing an hour for every hour that we're spending on a customer vehicle? And are we charging the proper amount of labor in terms of like a dollar amount, our labor rate? Are we charging enough for that labor rate? And so prior to COVID, we used to be able to analyze labor maybe biannually or quarterly or something like that. We look at it almost monthly now because expenses change so rapidly. We used to get bulk oil removed, right? Or any of our waste oil, anything that we drain out of cars. And before COVID, they used to pay us, say, $400 for a big holding tank that we have. And now we pay $400 for that. And the equipment is more expensive than ever. And the softwares and things that we need to make sure that everybody in the business is on the same page and everything is neat and organized for everybody, that stuff costs more money. And the customer retention marketing systems that we use that send text messages and emails and offers and things like that, all of that stuff costs more. And so we don't really want to sacrifice the employee or the customer experience. We just want to trim the fat. And if there is no fat to trim and we are not making that bottom line 10%, and there is no more, fluidity in the numbers, then we need to really look at labor rate and make sure that the labor rate makes sense. And I would tell you that probably 90% of the shops that I go into are underpriced in their labor and also in their market in general. And when we start talking to these shops about what their labor rate should be, there is an actual calculation that goes into this. We begin to look at what the overhead actually is, and then we back into the labor rate. The last thing that you want to do is the Oreo cookie method, right? If Bob's shop down the road is charging one rate and Tim's shop down the road is another rate, you just kind of position yourself in the middle. The reality is that their expenses have absolutely zero to do with your expenses, and their experience may be different, and they're using different parts. They have different people. One business is not identical to the other. So you just want to make sure that you're doing a labor rate calculation that makes sense for you. But you should also be meeting with your accountant, if not quarterly, monthly, biannually, but I wouldn't recommend extending it more than quarterly, because this helps us realize that, say, maybe in like March or June, that we have increased in top line revenue, and that we're also increasing in bottom line revenue, and there may be a tax liability issue. So maybe if we need equipment or something, this is something that we want to look into in the latter half of the year and begin to reinvest back into the company. That bottom line 10% doesn't necessarily just go into your pocket. It goes back into retained earnings, and then you can use those retained earnings to go and invest back into the company in a meaningful way. That can be through equipment, things that you can then later write off and take off your tax liability, entitlements for employees, perks, things like that. And so there's a lot of cool ways to make sure that you are showing that your business is building value, and you're paying that tax, and you're showing that you're making a profit without just taking cash out of the business, which, one, if that's what you want to do, that's on you, but it's unethical. And if you decide that you want to sell your business, or if you decide that you want to expand your business and you want to go for a loan, either way, a buyer is going to have to go to a bank, or you're going to have to go to a bank or an investor, and they're going to want to see that your business is profitable. And if your KPIs are not in line and you're pulling a bunch of cash out of there and you're not showing any revenue, the reality is you're kind of dead in the water there. And so when we talk to a lot of these business owners that are beginning to take over a company from family, and Tim, I can't imagine the situation that you're in, because it sounds terrible. I'm sorry that your father had passed away, but there is pressure in legacy, and we want to be here as a resource to you to make sure that you are doing the things that you need to do and you're feeling the successes. The business should enrich your life. It should energize you. It shouldn't make it feel like it's taking away from your family or anything else. Like, I've been there, I've done it. I've run a company that was not profitable for many years. I felt like I was struggling. I was constantly drowning. I felt like every week I was struggling to make payroll. And the first thing that I did was I got myself a coach. And the coach helped give me clarity around that. And then from there, we began to work with our accountant a lot more, and, just kind of moved on using any of our mistakes as opportunity to get better. So I just want to make sure that you know that, like, you're not broken. Your shop is not broken. It's just that your systems are, and the way that you are probably charging the customers, or the things that you're spending on, there's too much. There's something going on. Probably 80% of the businesses that we look at, maybe even 90%, I'm just kind of guessing right now without actually looking at the numbers, I would say that the majority of them all have an issue where they're just not charging what they need to, and they're overpaying in labor. And now that doesn't mean to cut money from your technicians that are out there working their butts off for you. It just means that sometimes we need to trim the fat, or sometimes we're just not charging enough, and maybe we need to look at adjusting our labor rate a little bit in a way that makes sense. So if you are struggling like Tim, you're welcome to reach out to us. You can go right over to our website, lotuspe.us, and you can ask us a question. We'll be happy to read it on the air, and in some cases, we'll even have you right on, and we can kind of solve this problem together. But this is a pretty easy one. It's an easy one to talk about, and it's an easy one to explain. It's going to take a little bit of time for you to begin to solve this. But the first thing is just look at your expenses, figure out where you're spending, figure out how you're charging. And if you need any more help with this, we can hop on a call with you, or we can get you on with our accounting team. So, Tim, I really want to thank you so much for asking this question. It's a very valid question. A lot of shops are going through this. You're not alone, but we're here to help you. If you need anything else, feel free to reach out. Thanks for listening to Owner Optional. If you want to learn more how we help shop owners build businesses that don't depend on them, visit lotuspe.us. That's lotuspe.us. We'll see you in the next episode, and thank you so much for listening.